Hi, welcome everyone. I am Wendy Watson. This is To Be Revealed Live, and I am on a mission to show everyone that spirituality has an infinite number of ways that you can define it. And it's all about it being personal to you, how you define it, how you view it. And yeah, that's my mission. And I want to welcome Tia Cristy. She is our guest today. And, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of vulnerability for our guests to share their stories, their very personal stories about spirituality. So I asked the audience today to please listen with an open mind and open heart and to respect their courage and vulnerability for being on the show today. So Tia, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Hi. Oh, Wendy, first off, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Tia Cristy. I was a radio personality for most of my life, and I am the founder of Tips from Tia, where we do tips on lifestyle. So you got you know, beauty, health, home, sexual health, mental health. We make the uncomfortable comfortable. That's the whole purpose. And we want to be a trusted resource. I'm also a CEO for a speaking company, and I'm a lifestyle editor for She Talks magazine. So yeah, I wear a lot of hats.
Yes, you do. So I always start off the show with the one main question, and that
Sure.
is, what does spirituality mean to you?
Spirituality means to me, that is my faith. That is my core being. Um, I tell people I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. I know that there's something much bigger than me out there, and I call it God, and I move by what God tells me to do. I fully surrendered to his mission for my life, and that is my spirituality. And I believe that you know, life is all about feeding my soul by helping others. So
I
super
love
important
that.
to me.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
So, what was it like growing up spiritually in your home?
Spiritually in my home. So my parents took us to church. We were raised to go to church up until a certain point. And then, it's funny, my mom was raised Catholic, and, we didn't pray, we didn't practice Catholicism, growing up because my dad was not. And, um, there was that community of church. There was Bible reading, Bible studies, different things like that, but um, it wasn't over the top. Like my parents kind of made it like it was cool. I
Mhm.
know a lot of people don't get that experience, but my parents made it like it was cool and it was community, and two or more gathered in my name. That was kind of like the lesson that we learned. Um, I would say at some point in time, my parents kind of fell out with the church. They didn't like where they were going. They didn't like the mission. They didn't like um the judgment, I guess. Some churches can provide too much judgment. And yeah, so they kind of backed off from that. And then we said our prayers, we did our blessings, different things like that. We continued on. But I will tell you, I think it was about 13 when I really found God for myself. And
Mm.
I was actually going through a medical thing, and my mom said, "Well, you don't have to read the whole Bible, just open it up and see what God says to you." And I opened it up, and it was like, boom, right there. I mean, it was really wild, and that really solidified my friendship with him, and I feel like he's my best friend.
Yes,
Yeah,
I love that you call it a friendship with him,
yeah, yeah,
right?
absolutely.
That's kind of really what it is. What benefits did you find out of going to church and having those Bible studies and finding that at least having like a foundation of a community?
So at first, I will definitely say I was the kid that probably rolled my eyes or felt the, "Oh, we got to talk about this now, you know." And it was, my mother, I love her so much, I do, but it was like one of those things where, she would start and I'm like, "Oh, get ready for the preaching," and I think a lot of people feel that way. They're worried that they're going to be told their views are wrong instead of it being enlightening. And I think that's where it really comes in. Your spirituality is supposed to be enlightening to others. You have your own strong beliefs, but um, if you can enlighten somebody or somebody can enlighten you, I think that's the beauty of it. So the community part, I think that came later on in life, where I spent my summers, teaching the Bible school to the kids. Like that was fun and different things, but it was never more than just, the neighborhood or whatever. It
Mhm.
didn't become like community until honestly somewhere in my 20s. I think I was sitting there. My I come from an entertainment background, as you know, and I was sitting there at a show one night, and after the show, everybody was kind of like, "Oh, let's continue on. Let's let the party keep on going." And a bunch of people were going to the bar, and I was like, "You know what? I just feel like going home. If anybody wants to come back, they can." And a few people came back, and I have no idea how it happened, but it was so divine. We sat there and just started talking, and we ended up having like this cool Bible study. And I don't know, it was really amazing. And when I look back, I'm like, that was one of the most fantastic nights that I can remember because
Aw.
I think we just, it's already like 1 o'clock in the morning or something. And we ended up until the sunrise. And it was so beautiful. And it was so amazing the people that were in my living room because they did not look like your typical, Christians or whatever. Like, I mean, we're talking rockers, we're talking, hip hop people. Like it was really awesome to see like this community come together and share our beliefs. It was beautiful.
Yes, because it takes all kinds, right? There's not, don't judge a book by its cover, right?
No.
Whether, no matter, and that applies to everything, right? It doesn't matter what you look like. It only matters like what you believe and whether or not you're in alignment with each other and all of that good stuff. And it sounds like a beautiful evening.
Yeah, what's in your heart, really? And
Yeah.
it's just such it was so extraordinary to come together. I mean, I already love these people. But I laughed because it was just um somebody asked me, "Oh, what you guys do last night?" And I'm like, "Oh, we had like a Bible study." And they were like, "What?" It was very shocking to some people, but still to me, I treasure that night because I think a lot of people think their faith is private or they're embarrassed by it. They don't own it proudly. And like I said, I grew up with God is cool, so I have that outlook. Like God is cool, man. He's on our side, and he's listening, and he's waiting for us to do these extraordinary things and ask him for help doing these extraordinary
Yes.
things to guide us to do these extraordinary things. So.
He wants
Um,
you to ask for help, right?
Oh yeah, he wants to give it
Yeah.
all to you. You just got to ask.
Yeah. So how do you blend the Bible with your spirituality? What is that balance for you?
So, it's gonna sound funny, but because of how my mom said, just like open it up and see what it says to you. Um, I was at that age where, I was reading a lot of magazines. I'm a writer, so reading different magazines, like that was my thing. I had Vogue and the Cosmo and all that stuff piled up. And in the back, there was always the horoscopes. And, I do believe that horoscopes, first off, I think they're fun. But I do believe, like, when it comes to astrology and things like that, this is my belief, people, just my belief.
Yeah.
I think because you go deep and you got, your sign, and then were you born, or moon sign, water sign, like all that kind of stuff. I really feel like it's like a card catalog for God,
Okay.
because you meet somebody that is the same sign as you, and they're so similar. And then you'll meet somebody, that has the same sign as you, and you're vastly different. So, but then you find out, like, you were born under different signs of, like, water, all that. So I just kind of feel like that's one of God's, like, systems on, how he placed us. It's like the Dewey Decimal System for people. And I know, it's just my belief.
I love it. I love it.
So, I feel like when, um, it came to the horoscopes being, like, in the magazines and different things like that, or the daily ones that show up, I stopped reading them because I realized that I was actually allowing them to kind of dictate me and what my day was going
Mm.
to look like. So I pushed them aside, and instead I opened up the Bible, and I would just read wherever my finger pointed to, and I wouldn't read more than, the paragraph. But then I was like, okay, that relates to what I'm thinking, or there's a message in there, and I'll just look out for the miracle today. So that's kind of how I changed it up.
Yes, I love it. Are there any other spiritual tools that you use other than the Bible and astrology?
Um, well, again, no, I don't really use the astrology,
Okay.
but no, I think, prayer. I'm big on prayer. I'm praying up. I pray all day, every day.
Mhm.
I really do. I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh God. I think people just say that out of habit, like, oh God. No, when I say it, I'm actually, like, talking to him. I'm like, oh God, all right, what do I do now? So it's one of those things. He's my best friend, like I said. So I'm talking to him constantly. And
Yes.
I think it's really cool to be able to have these conversations with other people about it and see where their mindset is. I think it's incredible to see, I know some people that do, daily groups, and
Mhm.
I've done a couple of them. I just, it's early usually
Mhm.
for my time. So I don't get to do it every day, but I
Yeah.
have my own daily devotional and meditations and things like that I do.
Awesome.
How we start our day off is super important.
Yes, 100%. So how do you start your day off? What?
So, well, I wake up, and it's funny. I have affirmations around my bed. So when I wake up, I actually have words written in a frame, to tell me and remind me that, life is happening right now, and I need to ask for what I want. And I need to, it's not about earning it, it's about he wants to give it to me. And um I do have to, be open-hearted and know that I am worthy to receive it. But it's not about him approving me. I have to approve myself. So I have those kinds of daily things set up around my bed. So, like, first thing I wake up, I see it. It is happening for sure.
Mhm.
And then, I wake up, do the regular routine of the morning, getting, just at least pampered a little bit. But then I I start off with saying happy birthday to the people in my circles, because science has proven that, being um, in communication within the first, 10 minutes of your day usually is very, very beneficial,
Mhm.
just for your overall being. So I take that time just to send out a good wish to somebody. And then from there, I end up doing movement meditation, which helped me learn how to do regular meditation because I'm such
Mhm.
a go, go, go person.
Yeah.
I have a lot of energy. Wendy knows that. I have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So that taught me how to do regular meditation. So I will do my movement meditation. I'll do my devotionals, and my gratefulness. And then yeah, I'm ready to kickstart my day. It's usually how it goes.
Sounds like a
I'll try to
great
get some
routine.
reading in there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great routine.
Thank you.
Starting
Yes.
off with all the positivity, the sending of love to other people, the receiving of love to yourself sounds very well-rounded.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions are coming to mind. One, how do, there's a lot of people that struggle out there with meditation and that busy mind and that high energy, like you have. So how did the movement meditation help you to learn how to meditate? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So as you know, I am a TEDx speaker. And I did my TEDx on it's all stress, the frazzler versus the silent stressor. And we stress out. When we stress out, we kind of tend to go one way. We're either the frazzler or we're the silent stressor where we internalize everything. I am a silent stressor.
So am I.
And yep, I internalize it all. And what we do is we end up not sharing. Frazzlers, they end up sharing. They share way too much. They're like, and they stress everybody else out. And you're like, oh my gosh. So, in my talk, I tell people how to kind of combat that and kind of reduce and eliminate stress. For me, I was so internally like shaken up. It's like on the outside you look like you're calm and you're good and everything's fine. You're smiling a lot. I mean, you smile a lot, I smile a lot. But internally we're like, oh my gosh. And it's like, a soda shaken up like really bad, and all that pressure is really, really bad for us, and it caused many, many illnesses. So I was like, I need to find a way to do this. Meditation, okay, couldn't do it. My mind was going crazy all over the place. Or I'd fall asleep, which I was like, that's not okay. But meditation, sleep is meditation, believe it or not, it is. So there's nothing wrong with it. So anyway, I started to figure out I had to do something to expel the energy. And I ended up taking an energy class. And that is when I learned about fire down, water up, it's called. And it's a tapping method. Not everybody's into tapping. I don't associate it with anything more than energy. Some people have different beliefs behind tapping, but I'm just waking up my cells and I'm moving them where I need them to go. So I basically started doing that, and it's called fire down, water up, because basically you're using your energy throughout your whole body. And, when I was younger, I was really big into like martial arts and knowing my chi and stuff like that. So I understand how important the energy is in the body. And so with this, kind of opens up your different chakras, and, it all of a sudden your whole body is just buzzing with heat. And then all of a sudden, like, you do the final swipe at your head. And when you do that, this rush of cold just shoots all the way from your toes, like up to your head, and then just tingles everywhere. And you're like, oh my gosh, feels amazing. So now your energy is just vibing out of every single limb that you have, and, every fingertip. And, it's so beautiful. And when I was doing that, I realized my mind was clear. I wasn't thinking constantly about this, or what's my day look like, or what do I have next. And it was very therapeutic, just in taking me to that conscious subconscious level where the two meet. And it was so beautiful. So I really started to implement that into my daily routine. And then from there, I was like, you know what, this is really good, but I feel like I need more. So then I started doing guided conscious walks with a neuroscientist who he's just extraordinary in everything that he does. And he has proven, that miracles do exist. There's science behind these miracles. And so we went through a conscious walk, and my first time, I have to share this. This is so great. My first time we walked through, and it's this silent meditation. I'm doing exactly what he's telling me to do. And I'm not speaking. I'm just in the meditation. And he is now directing me on how to clean out this clutter because we're hoarders, and inside your mind is so much junk you don't need. And so he helped me like find the blockages and just start cleaning them out and cleaning them out. And we did this for about 2.5 hours. Two
Wow.
and a half hours I stayed
It's
in
a
a
lot.
meditation. It was a lot. So he brings me out of it. I am like buzzing. I'm just like, you know, and he says to me, he says, okay, drink lots of water, and you might be really hungry or you might be tired. He's like, I'm not sure which way it's going to go, but it's going to be one of those two things. He was like, and just do whatever your body needs. I said, okay. And 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm still like, like buzzing. And I was like, I don't know what he's talking about being tired. Like I feel like I could take on anything right now. And I was like, you know what? You better go to sleep though. So I lay down, I go to sleep. I woke up, I don't know, 10 hours later. I got something to drink. I got something to eat. I went right back to bed. I continued to do this for 3 days. I could not stop sleeping for 3 days. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I finally woke up, and it was so weird because I was missing words. So I would try to say something to you and I could not think of the word. So I call him in a panic and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what did you do to me? Did you break me? I have no idea what happened. And he said, no, this can happen. He says, we have so much clutter in our brains. He says, look at it this way. Picture a living room that is, floor to ceiling with boxes and boxes of junk. And you want to get to the couch. Well, before you would have to like walk around these boxes and climb over things and, scale all of this stuff to get to the couch. He says, but now you cleaned it all out and it's a straight shot to the couch and you don't know how to do it because you're body wants to go all around and do all these other things. He was like, don't worry, everything will come back. It will fall into place where it needs to be. And I'll tell you, like the next day I was fine. I was absolutely fine. But it was wild. And first time I did that, I can say from that point everything was different. And now I do them, every couple of months I'll go through and clean out the clutter because it piles up.
It does pile up. For me, my movement meditation is going for a walk around the lake, and I just totally like get into this meditative state. I listen to music, but I'm actually moving, and that helps. Or even qigong would be another form, right?
Yes.
Because you're moving the energy and you're freeing up the stagnation. Really.
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. And I
So
love I love adding some of that in there because first off, it's so beautiful and it has so much purpose.
mhm.
Like I will bring in all the good and push out all the bad. I will bring in the good and give birth to the greatness, and it's very important to, you know, get your whole body and mind in alignment with that.
Yes. There's a lot of people, I believe, and I love saying this, God is in everything, energy is in everything. And to me, that's not a coincidence.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people out there that feel like the energy talk is a lot of woo-woo. And I love how you're combining the Bible and the energy. how would you communicate that to other people? Like, how does the Bible and the energy work together for you in a way that you can explain it to our audience?
Well, my favorite thing in this world is when science and faith, spirituality, like team up, like when you can actually see that it goes together. Because when I was in middle school, I was really good at science, and I really had these aspirations of doing something in the science field back then. And my teacher, terribly enough, told me that I had to believe in one or the other. I could not believe in both. And that really just put an ill taste in my mouth on science for a while. But you know, I'm a self-proclaimed nerd, so science still caught up, and I still have to do all my research and things like that. So when it comes to it being both, I allow people to know it's not one or the other on any of it. Like if we were right, we wouldn't be here because we'd have all the answers. And I mean, it's that simple. And I think
Yep.
that it's important to keep open minds. If somebody's telling me, they had interaction with, extraterrestrials, I would listen because I know nothing about that world. But if they do, like, cool, fill me in. Somebody that's telling me all about energy and what's gonna be good for me, to try. Sure, let's listen. People that speak in tongues. I mean, that's wild,
Yeah.
if you've ever seen somebody speak in
Yep.
tongues. And it can be very uncomfortable at first if you ever have someone speak tongue over you, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And you're like, is this okay? Is this not okay? It's I think that we need to expand our minds, because I mean, to me, that's just somebody speaking over you with a language you don't know. They could be speaking to me in French, and I'd still be like, I don't know. I think it's French. So I think it's really important to just keep open minds, keep an open heart more than anything. Having that open heart will just allow you to be, um, it'll help you go further. But also you can even understand the ripple effect when you have an open heart, how you can affect others. And I
Yeah.
think that's the important thing.
Yes. So one question that they really want me to ask you is, how does your spirituality, or how has your spirituality affected your relationships? How does it play a role? Not just intimate and personal relationships, but also familial, friends, business relationships. How does that play a role for you?
Well, I think that's great. I love that question because my family will be like, oh, or friends even, they'll be like, oh, call T or have T pray for you. T knows how to do that. Have T pray for you. And I think that's so cute, because I'm like, dude, you know how to pray too, but all right,
Yeah.
let's do it. um, and I just think that's funny, that happens. Because I'm not walking around, I'm not John the Baptist. I give so much credit to John the Baptist, talking about God everywhere he went and blessing everybody and baptizing everybody. I like that's not me. But I don't hide my faith either. And
Yeah.
I think that that's the important thing. And so for somebody to be like, yo, ask T, to pray for you. Like, I think that's kind of cool. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do this. So that has worked that way. In business, I trust God to guide me in all of it. I think if I have a gut feeling, I'm out, like, or I'm in. It's that, even if I want it so badly, but my gut is telling me, I know that's God, and I know that's divine. And you know, you and I have talked before about divine wisdom. I believe divine wisdom, you know, some people call it psychic or ESP or whatever. And, you know, I've used all those words too, but really it comes down to divine wisdom. And if God is telling me don't do it, like I said, he's in control, even though I try to be so many times. I have to say, okay, like I'm out, or I'm in. And when it comes to relationships, it's super important. I was with some people that did not have faith, um, and that can be very trying, especially in the hard times. So um, I think that that has become something that is super important to me. So, yeah,
Yay.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't usually talk about relationships, but
I
you know,
know.
I talk to people about theirs, not about mine. Yeah.
I know, but this show is all about you, sweetie.
I know. Like, whew, the vulnerability, it's
Yeah.
unreal.
You
Yeah,
know,
no, it's great though. You know, I think that it's really cool because when you meet somebody that has this same, and not identical, I'm not talking about that, but has faith, and you're very faithful and spiritual and all that stuff. When you find somebody that's kind of like a match in that, like it's really cool because now you know you're not just leaning on each other. You have your faith and, you know, God to lean on, your spirituality to lean on. You know, and it takes a lot of pressure off, let's be honest, because God
yes.
doesn't want us to carry all this weight. You know, it's not for us to bear this burden.
Nope.
And when it's only a partnership of two, it gets really heavy.
Yes. Well, as you said earlier, your friendship with God, right?
Yeah.
In your friendships, whether it's human or ethereal, they're there to help support you and take some of the load off.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that reminder too.
Well, I
As you
don't think
know,
you
I
need the
tend to
reminder
forget
because
that
you,
one.
yeah, I don't think you need the reminder. You already said it.
I forget, you know me. It's like the hardest thing for me to do is remember to ask people for help. I'm like, oh,
You
I'll just do
know,
it.
being strong women,
Hmm.
being entrepreneurs, whether you're male or female or whatever, right? Being one of those strong individuals, being such a doer, being a self leader, it's really hard for us to remember to ask for help sometimes, or to
Yes.
get our human brain out of the way and not try and take control, right? When God's trying to help guide us, it's really hard for us sometimes to be like, okay, to stop, stop.
Stop. Exactly. Because that's where it's always
Stop,
at. It's like, oh,
listen, follow through.
hmm,
You
I
know,
know.
I love the ego in a way. So how I use the ego is that it's my devil's advocate. It helps me to logically think through each and everything that do I really want this based off of XYZ? Is it the right fit? That's how I use it. Um, how do you, so as somebody that is such a leader, such a driven, ambitious person, such an independent person, like finding that, what tools do you use to get yourself out of trying to take control or trying to let all the humanism
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
into place and to
Um,
remind you to allow God in?
I think God reminds me most of all. Like all of a sudden, like something will happen and be like, I can't do anything with this. And I'm like, oh, that's right. You're in control. You know, so I think he reminds me a lot. Um, but yeah, no, when I've gotten to the point, muscle memory is really super important to me, as you know, with I I coach speaking to people, and um a lot of times I am teaching muscle memory. I tell people
Yep.
like it's about muscle memory. And so muscle memory is super important because it can help us with our whole entire body. Like if something feels out of whack, we know it. And it's not being hypersensitive. It's just we understand like that's not functioning the same way. Is it because I added something new, I did something different, something is just not right. I'm aging, like there's all of these different factors. And but now you have specific questions that you can ask yourself and then find the answer instead of it being like like just a whole cascade of questions. And then you Google or whatever, and you end up in panic because now all of a sudden you're just dying, like WebMD is like dying. Um, or you have a cold, one or the other. So it's like trying not to be so drastic in these things. So when you use muscle memory in kind of like that visceral or that gut reaction, that feeling, those moments that you have where like it kind of just takes you out of, I'm going to say out of peace for a second. Those are those moments where you can sit there and say, no, it's time to let go and let God, let him have control. You're trying to be too controlling in this, it's time to surrender. And I think surrender, I know for me, especially being very independent and all of that, is surrender. That's a tough word,
I think it's the
you know.
scariest word in the human language, in the English
Yeah, for
language.
sure. And it's so it's one of those things where um surrender, he is the one you're surrendering to. You're not surrendering to anybody else. I don't think we're supposed to really surrender to anybody else. There's times we can wave the white flag and be like, yeah, I'm tapping out or whatever. But like the surrender, I think that is given to God. That's my belief anyway for the spirituality. And it took a long time for me to get there, a really long time. And I've, I've had many, many blessings, many, many successes. And I'm grateful for that. Absolutely every single step of the way. But I have always felt that moment of hitting that wall, or I'm trying to do something really grandiose and bam, I hit the wall. And it hurts. Every time you hit a wall, it hurts, right?
Yeah.
So, we're all going to hit walls, but I think when you hit that wall and that feeling, that is when you know it's time to let God. It doesn't mean give up. It doesn't mean surrender in that it's a hard wall and it hurts. It doesn't mean any of that. It means surrender the journey now, the action plan, the whole what's next to God. And honestly, your mind will just open up and all of a sudden you'll see a door in that wall, or you'll be like, oh my gosh, I can just walk around it. Wow. It's
Yes.
it's really amazing how it happens.
Yes. Yes. I loved that you called it that it wasn't a hypersensitivity. To me, it's just awareness, right? Which is what you described without using the word awareness. You're just like, oh yeah, now you know XYZ and you're aware, blah, 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 blah. It's not a hypersensitivity. It is simply just being aware of how you are responding and the communications that you're receiving or sending and all of that stuff. So I love that you said that. I love that you called it muscle memory because I use that term all the time. And you described it earlier when you were talking about the walking meditation and clearing out the junk. And when you went back to your practitioner, when you couldn't come up with certain words, and he was like, yes, because you're used to doing things this way. And now we're changing that. And now it's more of a direct line. So now and the first thing I thought of was that you're changing the muscle memory,
Yep, exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yes.
So I love all of that. How do you blend free will with surrender?
Okay. So That's tricky, I think, being asked that way, because it is so tricky. It's like, wow, wait, two are totally opposite, maybe, in certain minds. But
Opposite, but linked at the same time.
yeah, and I think what's so cool, and this is where like faith comes in. Faith is not knowing, it's not always having the right answer. But I believe, again, my belief is God has given us free will. We have the power of choice. And it's incredible to have this power. But God is our parent. He's our father, and he already knows what choice we're going to make. And he doesn't sway us. That's the cool part. But, talk about like being psychic and all knowing, right? God is all knowing. So he already knows. And it's so hard for some people to believe, but yet that they can watch like The Matrix or something and be like, oh my gosh, that all makes sense. You know, I think that there are infinite possibilities in how we are supposed to get from our point A to point Z, we'll just say, right?
Sure.
And there are so many of these infinite possibilities, but God already knows what path we're going to take. But when we pray and ask God to order our steps, he will take us on the best path possible. Instead, when we try to do it on our own and we have to control it all, we end up going from here to back to, and all of a sudden, people get tired, they get burnt out, they get really exhausted. And there are some people, unfortunately, that don't make it to their destiny, I believe, and that is because they just stopped trusting in that path. And I think that when your faith is strong and your spirituality is intact, it's you're on that path from A to Z, and you'll eventually get there. But if you walk with God, you're going to get there a whole lot faster. And it doesn't mean that there's not going to be troubles along the way. And it's funny, growing up, and you know the Bible. I mean, you're familiar with all of this stuff, and I just think that's so amazing. But it's I laugh because in the Bible, like I wanted to, like we all, I think, aspire to be a David. We all want to be a David, like this is like we want to just you know be discovered for slaying the giant, and have a very rich, prosperous life afterwards.
Mhm.
And um then like you start living life and you're like, oh crap, I'm a Job, and Job suffered so much for so long, but he never lost faith. He never fell off the path. He just kept praying, give me the right steps, give me the right steps, right? And then his latter days, like it's so funny, like if you actually read in the Bible, like it's all of Job's woes. And like, I mean, honestly, like he's like the Eeyore of the Bible, if we're going like Winnie the Pooh style, right? He's like Eeyore, like just the worst things keep happening to this dude, right? And
I love that you're combining Winnie the Pooh with the Bible.
it's my way. Um, yeah, so
I love it.
this is you asked me to talk about this
I
stuff, and this
know,
is what
I
you get,
know.
you know?
It's I love it.
So anyway, like all this terrible stuff keeps happening to Job. And then you get to the end of the chapter, and it basically is like a paragraph. And it was like, because he did not waver, his latter days were better than his former, and he wanted for nothing. He had asked for nothing. He had the perfect life for the rest of his life. And I'm like, anytime you are down in the gutter, anytime things are not going right, just remember you're a Job. Just keep that faith, keep staying faithful in your mission, in your journey, and you're going to be golden. And
Yeah.
that's what I tell myself. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love it. So what I'm hearing as far as like blending free will with surrender is
Mhm.
that you're using the free will to surrender to your faith.
Yes. Well, I think I'm sorry because I know I went totally like off track and brought in Winnie the Pooh, but um,
It's
you know,
okay.
I think that you know, by surrendering, um, we are saying we know you have a destiny for us, and we would love for you to take us on the best path possible.
Yeah.
And
And you're
we
you're
still,
using your free will to make that decision.
yes, yes. And along the path, you
Mhm.
still have that option to make free will happen. And you could take that fork in the road, but if you keep remembering to say, oh, just keep talking to me, Lord,
Mhm.
you'll be on the right path.
Yes.
I got
And
faith. I got faith it's all gonna work out for
yes.
everybody. I'm like such a
Absolutely.
happy go lucky person, you know that.
Yep. Absolutely. Um, so I want to go back to David and Goliath for a moment.
Okay.
Because you're talking about how people want their David and Goliath moment, or they want to feel like David by the time they get older or reach that point. And I really want to point out that we have those moments, we have our David and Goliath moment every day. Whether it's finally getting the kids to eat vegetables or getting them to complete their homework, right? Or the big win in business or scale, knowing that you're ready to scale your business to another level. To
Mhm.
me, that's a David and Goliath moment, in my
Yes.
opinion, right? And so I just want to bring the attention to that we are a David and Goliath. We are a David every single day. Every day that we wake up and we start another day and we set new missions and we set new goals and we achieve something. Even if we have 10 goals and we achieve only one of those, we still achieved one. And
Right.
that to me is a David moment.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I think that's what it is. You know, a younger mindset, maybe it's a way of saying, I hate to say like an immature mindset. I want to be a David. Like, well, yeah, we all do. But it's one of those things I think it's these are stories in the Bible because they're all so relatable
Yeah.
and we can relate to each person. So you are a David, you are a Job, you are a Ruth, you are, like an Esther, like just keep on going and you
Yeah.
can be very similar. Even even the villain parts, we've been villains in our lives too. And it's hard. But that's why there's grace. And I think a lot of times people when they think of the Bible, they go to what, the Old Testament, I guess, where he was an angry God, and there was a lot of
Well,
punishment and wrath and different things like that. And
2/3 of the
um
Bible is the Old Testament.
right, yeah. So it's like, I think a lot of people think that, and they forget the big part about, Jesus coming and everybody being saved and all that stuff, where, there is forgiveness. And whether it's the Bible or not, I think forgiveness is one of the key things that we need to remember in this life of ours. That's spirituality too,
Yeah.
so it's um, our spirit needs to shine and thrive. And when we cannot forgive, we go dim, we get musty, we get, just weighed down. And we need to be able to do that forgiveness so we can shine again. And, it's not just forgiving others, it's forgiving ourselves. And I think for me specifically, I am very good at forgiving others. I I have had to work on me forgiving myself, and I'm not sure if everybody's that way, but forgiving ourselves, I think, is the hardest part.
It is the hard part. You know, I think people are better. I mean, it's still hard to forgive other people, especially depending on what the situation is. But there's a lot more work and a lot more reflection involved to forgive yourself. And I think that's really scary for people to self-reflect on a general concept. I know, it was for me. I know certain people in my life that are just downright afraid of that mirror.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And right. But without that mirror, you can't be the version of you that God wants you to be. You can't be in your authenticity. You can't be in your genius. Right. And you can't receive the abundance that God wants to give you if you don't do the work. Right. You mentioned earlier chakras.
Yeah. Yes. Let's talk
And
chakras.
yeah, I mean, let's talk chakras, because there's a lot of religious people that don't think the two worlds meet, and it kind of reverberates back to my question of how do you blend the energy with the Bible. So what are your thoughts in regards to chakras and meridians and, some of the other, like your aura and some of the other energy pieces or spiritual pieces that are out there?
Yeah, see, I think that's why it's important to know like a little bit about everything. You don't have to be a master of it all. You really
Mhm.
don't.
Yep.
I don't know all the masterful stuff with the chakras and you know, what is that? The my design or something like that. Like everybody was
Oh,
doing that
human
my
by
design.
design.
Yeah, that thing. I don't get into all of that, somebody did mine. It was pretty accurate with some of the things. I've also done the Myers-Briggs and that's really accurate on, kind of who I am. And I was just like, wow. Again, just another ways of categorizing, it's our Dewey Decimal System, I feel like, and yeah, but for you know, bringing all of that together, I think we have to be open to this stuff. The body is the most incredible instrument that God has ever created. It really is just so amazing when you think about it. And that's I'm gonna get sidetracked again here. Give me 1 second, but like that's another thing that it says like in the Bible is, God made man in his image, right? And so people will say, well, you think we're the only ones? No, I don't. Like, I honestly, I feel like that would be kind of silly for me to think we're the only ones, especially when they're finding new like insects. They're finding like hundreds of new insects every single year. They don't
Awesome.
even know what's in the bottom of our ocean. Like how could we think? you know and it to me, what I hear, and remember, this is translation. The Bible is just
Mhm.
translated, so it's like whispered down the lane. Whatever was first said is not always the same thing that you're going to hear at the end of the lane. And that's how I look at it. So I hear, though, this is the first time God made man in his own image. That's what I hear.
Mhm.
you
Okay.
know so that means that other beings out there exist, and maybe they were called man as well. They're just not like us.
Mhm.
And who knows what that image is? Does that mean, we have this power of free will and surrender and they don't, and they look exactly like us, or they look nothing like us? Like, who knows? I don't know, because I'm still here.
Yes.
and but it's one of those things where, combining all of that stuff, these things belong in the world for a reason, because a lot of these things were proven to work.
Mhm.
And you could sit there and you say, well, not everybody, believes in the Bible. There's this one and there's that one and there's crown, like, I get that. But if you look at some of these stories, they're the same. And again, whispered down the lane. You know, we talk about Noah and the ark. Well, you know, over in Asia, they have one. It's about the Great Flood, and I forget, you know, the name of that person, but it's basically like, I don't know, his name was Bob. It's when you tell a story. I don't remember the guy's name. We'll just call him Bob right now. Bob was in a flood, you know, and then that the story is what's important, not the name, not all those little details that make it up. It's the story that's important. So I think when it comes to the chakras and all of that stuff, it's the purpose of it that's important.
And defining that purpose for you.
So the purpose for me is that I know my body is energy. We are all energy, and I want to supply it and charge it the way that it needs to be, so it can be at optimal performance each day. So
Yeah.
that's what I do.
I mean, that's how you serve your clients, right? And serve
Yes,
your people when you're on stage.
absolutely. And if I'm not at optimal, how can I provide for somebody else?
Hmm.
You know, um, if I'm not filling my cup, I mean, we hear people saying this all the time now, you know, we do live in a society that just exhausts words. We do. There's so many great words out there.
Yeah.
But everybody is talking about being authentic now. It's just be yourself. Just be yourself. Stop trying so hard. Just, you know, bring your best.
Yeah.
Um, I love the word authentic, but it is like it's everywhere right now. Like authentic, authentic. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that when we feed ourselves, you know, it's like reading anything. You know, you read a self-help book or you read a fiction novel. It's feeding yourself. It's helping your brain, it's helping your body. You're actually getting, you know, that visceral response when you read something. You like that's why I try to tell people all the time, you know, clients, I'm like, stay away from the negative. Don't feed the negative,
Yes.
you know, feed that positive, read the good stuff, you know, be the change you want to see in the world. Stop complaining about it. Just be the change. I think that is important. So when you're feeding that energy and you can focus in on your different chakras, you know, and do what has already scientifically been proven to help that spot, that area, I'm not going to shame that. I'm going to try it, and I'm going to see what happens, you know, because
I
it's an
love it.
open mind and it's an open heart.
Yes. I love that. So
Yeah.
to wrap up, what what is one thing that maybe we've discussed already, maybe we haven't, but what is the one thing in regards to spirituality that you want to leave the audience with?
Oh, don't worry about being right. Don't worry about being wrong. Just do it with love and, you know, care for others, help others. That's the important part.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Because you don't know if it's right or wrong until you know it's right or wrong. So don't worry about it. Just do it.
If it's on
Yes,
your heart, do it. Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you, Tia, so much for sharing your journey, for opening yourself up to us today and being vulnerable for for me and our audience for the last hour. I really appreciate it. It does
Thank
take a
you.
lot of strength and a lot of courage to share these kind of stories and to share this platform. And so I really, again, I ask the audience, just listen with an open heart and open mind, respect everybody's stories that are on my show. And please leave comments. Let me know, let us know what you think about Tia's thoughts and perspectives in a very respectful manner. And let's continue this conversation. So thank you so much for listening. Tia, thank you again for being here today. And
Thank you.
watch out for the next episode.